down to Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frauds. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all banned. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor. I'm your host, Greg Sylvander. Today's floor plan with me, Brady Hawk. We're going to talk what if Jimmy Butler does not play? What do the Heat do? What do they do on offense? What do they do on defense? What other adjustments might we see in game 2 Tuesday night? But before we do, I want to tell you about a great sponsor of ours. Are you a South Florida property owner with an insurance claim? Or are you dealing with water, mold, or fire damage to your home or business? Are you having trouble locating a 5-star rated general contractor that's fully licensed, certified, and insured? If the answer is yes, then Water Cleanup of Florida is here for you 24 hours a day. With over 60 years of combined experience, Michael, Robert, George, and their entire team is prepared to handle any size property damage disaster. When an unexpected damage occurs at your home or business, you call these guys. They're going to take care of you no matter what. They're fully licensed. They're a general contractor. They can provide A to Z one-stop shopping for busy homeowners or home buyers, frankly. So this is who you want to go see. They have their premier showroom in Boca Raton, or if you want to just give them a call, it's 954-579-0356. Call Michael anytime on his personal cell, 954-579-0356, or visit WCUFL.com, Water Cleanup of Florida. If you have the schmutz, they have the guts. All right, welcome back. I don't know where the intro is going to get laid into this episode because Alex is not on, but he's producing. So if you're hearing this after the intro, that's cool. If not, we're rolling. Brady Hawk and I are going to talk about the worst case scenario. If Jimmy Butler doesn't play, he went down in game 1, and I feel like every Heat fan was like, oh no, this is over. Mm-hmm. This is all ending. And the Heat closed that one out. And that was big. Spo talked after the game about the margin of error being so slim. If Jimmy's out, Brady, the margin for error grows even slimmer. There are some banged up guys on the Knicks side. Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson were tagged questionable today. Jimmy Butler also questionable. The other thing was a lot of the New York media has been reporting on Mitchell Robinson complaining of being pretty bruised up. I guess it's a hip or something like that. So watch out for that. But no Jimmy, Brady. That's going to be a whole different experience for this Heat team. So I'm going to start on the end of the floor that I feel like, because of the principles, hopefully they can slide into some easier adjustments. Let's talk defense first. If Jimmy is out, and I may be overstating this actually, if Jimmy is out, what the hell do they do defensively? What do you see? I guess I'm going to just preemptively say I believe Caleb Martin would slide into the starting lineup. But if you disagree, tell me why. And also on the defensive end, I feel like they could keep things pretty stat quo. But you correct me if I'm wrong. What else would they need to adjust? Because obviously Jimmy Butler does things in the playoffs, particularly, that not even Caleb Martin can fully replicate. So what adjustments do you think they'd make?
So there's the Eric Spoelstra part of this, where whenever we have this conversation and a starter goes out, we say, well, he wants to keep the rotation intact. He's going to pull up somebody that's not in the rotation. Second round of the playoffs, that ideology goes out the window, in my opinion. Like, I think we throw all of that out. You pull up your best player and your best chance to win in that moment, because you can go down early in a game and they won't look back. Look at game 2 in Milwaukee. That game was over before they even came out of halftime. Like, you cannot have that happen in this scenario. So I do agree. I think they have to start Caleb Martin. I said before the series, I thought Jimmy would get a lot of Brunson to start games. And the reason I said that was because I thought Caleb was a really good matchup for him. And something I was talking about on Twitter earlier today was like, I don't think we talked enough about what Caleb was doing defensively. Man, was he everywhere in that game 1. Like, he was doing stuff to Brunson, doing stuff to Barrett, doing stuff switching, doing stuff like everywhere along the line. So it's like, they need that to start a game. They need pressure. They're going to need him to plug in there. And then Highsmith's going to get minutes too. Like he's going to have to slide in there. He's going to have to get minutes in this scenario as well. But in terms of adjustments, the only thing I could see them changing, and I actually think we'll probably see a lot of it, is zone. I really do. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of zone. You look at the fact that one of the reasons the Knicks lost that game is the fact that they just couldn't shoot from deep. They couldn't. Like, they were, what was it, 7 of 34, I think it ended up.
Just awful.
Could not make a shot. And they were dipping off the right guys. They were missing, and it worked out in their favor. But what does the zone do? It forces those similar looks. And I think they're waiting. And I think this depends on the Randall thing. But I think they're waiting to deploy it when Randall comes back, because it kind of puts him into different spots and makes him operate instead of, he can't operate from that baseline that he likes or that kind of inner wing. He has to start operating from the middle of the floor. It throws him out of whack. Brunson, his ability, he'll probably find a way to get in that lane. But the thing is, he can get in that lane, but like Miami's been doing, they build a wall in there and kind of close off the paint, force those in-between shots, which he's good at. But eventually he's going to have to make those kick-out passes, and you're back to the three-point shots again. So in terms of defense, I think it's a lot on Caleb. Which feels like we've been saying this since last season when he was a two-way. Right. We were like, anytime Jimmy was out, it was like, Caleb, go do that. Like, go play Jimmy's role, which is real easy. Like, that sounds like a really easy idea. But, yeah, I think the only adjustment I could see is I think a lot more zone.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think that they lean in that direction, particularly if guys like Bam have to do more offensively. I think you can get away with him catching a breath with a little bit more zone, although sometimes that zone, they're still moving around a lot. And because of Caleb's similarities to Jimmy, at least defensively, I would hope that they could figure out a way to help off RJ Barrett. Just whoever's near RJ Barrett, help off of him and let him shoot it, because I think that is, if that's the guy that the Knicks are going to hang their hat on in this series and he's going to be open, whether Jimmy's playing or not, I think that if they have to live or die by RJ Barrett, they die. But let's talk a little bit about offense, because that's where I think the game completely shifts. And we're really we've been bringing a lot of content to you guys. I really think everyone should check out the Eric Reed interview that Alex and Ethan did earlier today. It posted on all of the platforms. But we're coming to you fast and furious, so we're already pivoting to adjustments offensively, which is the bigger conversation, because Jimmy Butler has basically been the offense for this entire playoff run. Aside from the fact that they're getting production from other guys, they're getting three-point shooting, timely three-point shooting too, but it still feels like there's a lot of adjustments to come. What do you see? Is it as easy as they're going to play through Bam more every time Jimmy sits, Bam goes off? That's the sound bites traveling around social media, but I feel like that there's probably more to chew on here. What do they switch up offensively with no Jimmy? It feels like almost everything. It's three-point shooters and Bam. Am I simplifying too much?
That's exactly what it is. I mean, Jimmy's been dominating the usage. Like, he's been the entire usage, and for good reason. Like, he's been dominant as an offensive player, so they work everything through him. So you have to make up for everything. You have to make up for his rim pressure. You have to make up for the fact that his pull-up shooting has been a big kind of filler for what they're missing from Tyler. There's like so many different elements here. But to your point, it's Bam and it's the shooters. And I honestly, as much as we're going to put all the pressure on Bam and say, well, every time Jimmy was out in the regular season, his shot diet went up. He was able to kind of score more and do well. It is all on three-point shooting. Like, anytime Jimmy ever goes out, they're going to put up threes. And I think it was the first quarter, the number was 17. I think they got up 17 threes in the first quarter in game one.
Yep.
If there was a trend that was going to go even higher, it's game two. Like, they are going to get threes up. And it's like, it's not even like the regular season trend, because they need it to sustain to some degree, but let's be honest, it's not going to. In terms of the percentages, I put it on Twitter earlier. I was going to pull up the percentages so far in the playoffs. Duncan Robinson, 58%. Jimmy Butler, 43%. Kevin Love, 43%. Gabe Vincent, 42%. Max Strus, 41%. Kyle Lowry, 40%. Caleb Martin, 38%. That is unbelievable. Like, those numbers don't make any sense. There's no logic to it. The fact that the worst three-point shooting team in the regular season does that in the playoffs. Will that be sustained in game two? We'll have to see. But part of it is, like, Jimmy was forcing a lot of these good looks. Like, Jimmy seeing triple teams against New York is forcing the max open looks and extra swings, or Gabe looks. Like, they are going to need some type of rim pressure. So I'm looking at Bam and I'm looking at Kyle, because I think Kyle's going to be extremely important. He's going to be absolutely he's going to be on ball like so much now, more than he even was before. But I think instead they're going to ask him to do a little bit more or different things, I'll say, because they've been needing the pull-up shooting. And I talked about how great he was in that fourth quarter, but they're going to need him to get to the rim. Like they just are. Like they need him to do that, get in that range, try to pull some defenders in to some degree, because they're going to be missing that. But other than that, they're just going to have to bomb away from deep. And then the other thing in terms of just filling into the starting lineup, the reason I think Caleb Martin's going to be important is if, let's just say hypothetically, the people have been saying kind of plugging in Haywood Highsmith, things get really stagnant. Like they just like, it's like there's not enough like offensive juice there, I believe, where it's Caleb, he is moving. Like he is moving all over the place, screening, kind of getting things around. They need all the movement they can. When you talk about, we always talk about their motion offense. Without Jimmy, they need to be moving at all times. Like they just do. So it'll be interesting. And it's just kind of it's going to be an unfair test for Bam. And I know people will take that the wrong way, but right now, when to put him in this environment while injured,
green light,
to be just getting shots up all night, like I don't know how it's going to go, but hey, maybe this is a situation where he gets a bunch of shots up and he gets a little confidence heading into the rest of these games. Maybe this is like a blessing in disguise in that banner. I'm just throwing stuff out there. But obviously we should mention, we still don't even know if Jimmy's going to be out. The most Jimmy thing ever would be everybody's preparing for this game to be without Jimmy. Last second, he says, I'm in, and he just decides to play anyway. That would be a Jimmy Butler moment. But obviously we have to note kind of the adjustments that's happening. And there's so many adjustments to playing without Jimmy Butler that we probably can't even hit on them all.
I'm glad that you went there because we need to address the non-X's and O's part of this. And we're going to do that after the break, close with a couple adjustments. Overall, like trends we may see throughout the series, I think is something that I want to get into as we close. Prize Picks, y'all. It has been an unbelievable run here. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick your favorite players, pick your favorite teams, pick your favorite sports, choose your stats, choose more or less. You can choose up to 6 players on one card, win up to 10 times your money. When you use the code 5, FIVE, you'll get your initial deposit matched up to $100, but you got to use that code FIVE. You get big payouts, 24/7 live support, fast and secure withdrawals. This is at prizepicks.com or download the app, use the code 5, FIVE to get your initial deposit matched up to $100. Wow. I am like all off of my game with that ad read. We'll see if Alex can clean that up. And if y'all hear it, that's okay too. I think you're right. Like I looked at Jimmy's ankles in the photos that are floating around. It doesn't look like a baseball. People said it looked like a baseball on Twitter after the game yesterday. Ethan didn't say it looked like a baseball, and he was in the locker room. So I don't know. He did walk all around New York today, and people are connecting dots and saying, like, if you were on an ankle that was really, really ailing, do you think you would be advised to walk all around the city? And I guess you could say, well, he's a grown-ass man and he could do whatever the hell he wants to do. But I think if he had vested interest in the success of his game and his ankle is dependent on that he would probably listen and chill. But he was out walking, Brady. So do you think that that's stuff we should consider? I feel like with Jimmy Butler, you almost have to. What do you make of the because you're always getting X's and O's questions on every single podcast, but now I'm going to ask you about the pop star paparazzi side of this as they're following Jimmy around and taking pictures. Do you think that that's any indication that he's in good shape?
I'll say this. My take on it is just as much of Jimmy Butler being in business mode on the court in the playoffs, he is always in business mode off the court. So if he has 3 days in New York, he is going to utilize those 3 days in New York for all of his off the court successes. That's so true. He's going to make all his stops. He's going to do all of his things, and no ankle injury is probably going to hold that back. Now, to an extent, though, you're right. Like, if it was that bad, like he would not be taking a stroll in the early morning around the town. Like, I don't think so. He might have been being escorted up to the door instead of walking on the sidewalk around. But I don't know. It's a weird scenario, I guess. We're just like taking his guess. But then there's also the kind of there's a balance here because we can point out the fact that like the Milwaukee just made the same mistake. like of sitting their guy out that extra game. And we keep talking about that. And then all of a sudden it came back around to beat them. But then there's also the balance of saying, why not give Jimmy Butler 5 or 6 days off? Well, you already stole your one game in kind of on the road. You head back home and you kind of have a much healthier Jimmy, because let's just say he plays does not mean it's the Jimmy that we've been seeing. Like, just because he's playing does not mean he's going to feel the same way. He's going to be playing the same way. So there's a balance here. It's like a total decision. And I don't think it's all on Jimmy to make the decision. I think it's on the team as well, because Jimmy's probably pushing. Jimmy's probably saying, I'm playing. He's like, I'm playing. But they're not going to let that happen. They're going to have to just do what's best for them and him. But I definitely am not reading too much into those Instagram, IG stories. But hey, I think it's a good sign though. Like if you're looking for the potential of him kind of getting out there and not having to watch this Heat team pull up 63s, like yeah, like it's a decent sign.
Listen, you're totally right, because it's better than us seeing some tweet about Jimmy Butler seen in a boot in the lobby or something like that. You know what I mean? So like people, I think, got a little disgusted by those that were following so closely on IG, because they think like it's a little ridiculous. And I do understand that perspective part of it when you're just seeing him walk around. But I know that I've seen other people get ankles injured in the past, and sometimes like they get wrapped up pretty quick, or they got to be on crutches for a day. So it looks like they avoided worst case scenario. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him. He's tagged questionable. I thought they were going to go a game time decision. I think ultimately they're going to float that out there. But again, we're all guessing. Brady said it earlier. Like, that's part of this, is that I think the mystique of it all is that now even the Knicks have no clue what the hell's coming after him. They don't know if it's Jimmy and the crew, or if it's this whole different group that's going to rely on a different level of variance from a different level of players.
Teams have been doing this to them all season.
Yep.
This is like exactly what's happened in every game and playoffs.
Yeah. So we don't know what's coming. And I think that that's good for the Heat. They're in a position of strength in that they have the series lead. They have the home court advantage, which I think will be good. And if they do decide to sit Jimmy, he gets almost a week off. But I have a sneaky suspicion he's going to try to play. They're going to probably have to tell him he's not playing. And you're right, it'll be a group decision. But I think ultimately they're going to have to rely on 3-point shooting if he doesn't play. But they're in a position where it's house money. And I want to close by saying that although I know everyone wants to get both games and sweep the Knicks, they got one up there. So perspective, everybody, keep your expectations in check. Any trend from game one you want to call out as we close here that you think we should continue to look out for the rest of the series? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like most of the trends involve Jimmy. So that's what makes these things weird. I think their game plan in general, I know this is now super X's and O's, but they were like very good. And I mentioned the motion stuff, which they're going to have to lean into without Jimmy. But man, they were throwing like actions that were like so many things happening at once, which it felt like in the regular season, we were calling at it so much times. Like everything was so basic. And we were like talking about how bad their offense was. We were dissecting everything. And then Spo gets into the playoffs and he says, well, here's my whole playbook. I'm going to lay everything out there. And basically he was running these like empty corner pick and rolls because they want to move Mitchell Robinson around and get him out of position. Running pin downs in the opposite corner. Like all of that stuff they need in general, but they need it more without Jimmy Butler. So that's kind of an important trend. But I will say this, you mentioned when you said house money, it was like dead on, because I was thinking about the fact this team, like one thing that I could pick up from being around them or even at practice, this team is confident right now. Like they walk around with, and it's a scary confidence, and it's not a negative thing. You need to have a certain confidence to you when you're in this straight, especially as an 8 seed, when you're battling an uphill battle. To that point, playing freely in a game 2 where you have nothing to lose without your best player potentially, with a ton of confidence, that's when things get a little weird because they could have these games where they just shoot the lights out or something. So it's not all doom and gloom. Like it's like put a confident team that plays freely out there. Maybe Bam gets a little confident and all of a sudden things look a little different. So I think it could be fun.
Amen to all of that, because I think Eric Spoelstra can get in his bag even further. You're going to need a couple guys to step up. There's no doubt about it. If Jimmy doesn't play, even if Jimmy does play, guys have been stepping up every game. So it's like you just need guys to continue with that mindset. the disposition of this team appears to have flipped. You talked about the confidence. Brady's around this team more than basically anybody. You know what I mean? Like, he's at all the functions, folks. And he says this team is confident. That's an interesting note, because you're right. They're going to play freer if Jimmy doesn't play. But even if Jimmy does, this team has kind of been through the ringer this year, and they've basically were like left out to die. Like, everyone thought they were dead. And so this has probably been house money for a lot longer than we're giving them credit for, because essentially this flipped. And so expectations, y'all, but maybe they get both and we head back to Miami up 2-0. That would be the most fun. We shall see. We'll have you covered on playback, pregame, postgame, 5 on the floor. You know where to find us. Thank you for joining us. Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Regional Sports Network.